to
Welcome to
Time in the Mystery
Time in Mystery
with Mike Mangione.
Thank you.
Let's just try and pretend like I'm not as excited as I really am for you to be hit in the ears with this episode of Time in the Mystery. I'm super excited. I'm containing it because by now I'm 7 episodes in. I'm a pro, and so I've harnessed the energy of excitement, and I'm just riding it like Ben-Hur. Today's guests are monsters in the music world. All right, this is Larry Campbell and Teresa Williams, and if you don't know who they are, you're gonna find out. And if you do know who they are, well, then you feel like I feel right now inside. If you haven't subscribed to this podcast, either through iTunes or your favorite podcast app, do so. The moment I publish them, they'll go right to your phone, right to your computer. It's good for everybody. It's a commitment, all right? A long-term relationship, and I'm willing to do it for you, with you. What? Also, I have some new patrons. Susie, Dancing Feet Keat, thank you for your support. And also thank you for the dinner. Every time I play Detroit, you take me out with your husband, and it's awesome. So thank you for that too. Also, Rachel Johnson, your name is Dr. Johnson because that was my orthodontist when I was growing up, and that's pretty cool. Thank you for the support, and thank you for the teeth. I think they turned out all right. Deborah Hermiston, I'm going to call you Deborah. It's more of an inflection. It's not really a nickname, but that's what I'm going to call you from now on. So thank you, guys. Your support means a lot to me, and it helps this whole thing continue. This is my NPR moment. If you considered being a patron of my work, if you considered it, but you thought, well, I'm just giving $2 a month, that's not going to help. It will. Every bit helps. Become a patron. You can do so at patreon.com/Mike Mangione. That's patreon.com/Mike Mangione. And it really does help this thing work. So thank you for it. If you're thinking about it, just do it right now. Go. Okay. Intro and outro music. You like it? Yep, me too. It's from licenselab.com. And if you need music to license, go to licenselab.com, licenselab.com. Mystery Monday is still in full effect. A lot of you know that because you're participating in Mystery Monday. If you want to be involved, go to my website, Mike Mangione. In the field that asks for your email, put in your email, send it to me. I'll give you a free download on the spot. And then every Monday after the podcast is released, I will send you a little email called Mystery Monday that gives a little editorial about the week prior's podcast episode, but also a little something special. So it's fun. Do it. So what do you say? What do you say to somebody who's worked with the most influential musicians? What do you say to somebody or two people that have been on some of the biggest records in your life? What do you say to them? Thank you? I think so. I think it's a start. I didn't really know what to say. I knew I wanted to have this conversation. I knew I wanted to enter into the mystery element of the work that they do, Teresa Williams and Larry Campbell. But man, they've worked with giants. Like growing up, Dylan and Levon Helm for me are my Mount Rushmore artists. You know, I got a couple. I got Van Morrison. I got Daniel Lanois. I got Peter Gabriel. I got Bob Dylan and Levon Helm in the band. You know, I always think of Levon the band, but like huge. And these guys are part of that fabric that has woven into me in the way that art can, you know, weave into people's lives and define time periods and characteristics and just help people develop into who they are. Like they're part of that. And I didn't know going into it, you know, how do I balance this out? I'm extremely grateful for the work that they do. And at the same time, I have to conduct a conversation. I was a little nervous for the fact that I didn't really know if I was going to be able to pull it off, because I mean, I just want to say thank you. I just want to say, look, you in your life, you have these people that influenced you. Well, you're that to me. So thank you. And at the other hand, I wanted to have a conversation. So I didn't know how it was going to go. And what I'm most excited for you to experience is how it went. It was organic and beautiful. We got into places that I didn't expect, that I was so appreciative. What I love about this conversation is Larry and Teresa's authenticity. They are authentic human beings, artists who are in this for all the right reasons and trying to reach people through what they're doing and have an experience of communion with them. And for 45 minutes to an hour, we had it there. I'm just so excited for you guys to share this. These guys are great, sweet people. They're on tour for a record that they just put out together, and it's called Larry Campbell and Teresa Williams, and it's a fantastic record. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Time in the Mystery Conversations with Larry Campbell and Teresa Williams. Guys, it's a real honor to be here with you. I've watched you guys for years. I've had moments with the music you guys do, personal moments that have entered the thread of my life. So thank you for letting me take a moment of your time.
Thanks for doing it, Mike.
Yeah. So I was kind of giving a little debriefing on what the whole premise is, but I guess to start off with, when did music change your life? Like, what was the moment?
For me, along with 20,000 other people, it was a very well-defined moment, which was February 9th, 1964, on the Ed Sullivan Show, which was the Beatles' first appearance on American media, and that was it. That was the Big Bang, And I mean, literally, the world was a different place the next day, and it would probably, so that was 64. Maybe by 1966, I was busting my ass to learn how to play the guitar, and it was all because of that moment.
So you weren't even in the realm of music.
Well, my parents had a ridiculous record collection, and there was music in the house all the time, and I was very fascinated with what I was hearing, but it wasn't grabbing me. It wasn't like pulling me to where I have to do this, but that experience, seeing those guys, that made that happen, because it was really tangible. It was speaking to all my contemporaries and people older than me, younger than me. It was this kind of like a door had blown open,
Yeah.
And there were lots of screaming girls.
Which has an appeal. All right.
Mine wasn't nearly so dramatic. There was always music around, and we had almost no records in our house because we just didn't have the money to spend on that kind of stuff.
Where'd you grow up?
Very rural West Tennessee, literally in the middle of cotton patches.
Yeah.
I walked to school through a cotton patch. I picked cotton. I hoed cotton. Probably the last one of, bunch of my generation was kind of the last one because then the machines came in.
Sure.
But there was just music always around at home, on the radio. Everybody had the radio going in my family. My mother playing, my father playing. So we made our own music. But I do remember at church, I remember the feeling today of standing there, and maybe it was a Christmas play or something that we were doing, and the thing that happened between the person giving it up on stage and the audience.
Yeah.
It was, how do you describe what that is?
Yeah, describe it.
But I knew that was my mission in life, and I had to be like really little.
Yeah.
Because they had me singing before they had to stand me up on a thing at church so you could see me. They had, like at 4, I think she started me, at 4 years old. So it was always around me. So it's nothing dramatic like Larry's, but I do remember that moment of just like being blown away and realizing this is my life. This is where I live.
Yeah. Well, I think even in that subtlety of your experience at church, that is dramatic. Because for me, music was not something understood, it was something felt.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when it hits you, it transcends. And for me, it was 14 years old listening to Peter Gabriel, So and Us in my room, like blown out of my mind. Like, what are these sounds? You know, who is this Peter Gabriel guy? Who's Daniel Lanois? Like, what is all this stuff? But it has that ability to kind of inflate in a very positive way and help you rise above the everyday.
Or live through something, or work through something, or acknowledge something that you didn't want to acknowledge. It just, yeah, it's powerful.
Very powerful. Greg Brown talked about, in the podcast, he talked about...
I'm a fan.
Huge fan.
Massive fan.
If not just for the voice alone.
Exactly.
Right?
But some of those lyrics, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm a poor backslider. And his song Daughters, I have 2 daughters. His song Daughters, it brought me to tears. But he talks about the kind of what you're talking about, that rural lifestyle, that the music being born out of.
Yeah, that's probably one reason I
Yeah.
identify so much with him.
Yeah.
Your grandmother's something in jars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of big images from me.
Yeah. And we need it. You know, it's like comes out of survival. So then, for both of you, then when it entered in and it stopped you in your tracks, what then was your first action? You said pick up a guitar, but like picking up a guitar and learning how to play guitar is just one small step in getting to that point where you're changing or where you're reaching a heart. What is that? How did that look for you then? Like, how did you transcend the I'm just playing chords to I'm moving people as well as myself?
Yeah.
And could you return that a little bit? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, you know, so I saw the Beatles on TV, got completely wrapped up in what they were doing, and then I started following this path of my ears were open to any music after that, and I was just voraciously finding anything I could, you know. So on the Beatles record, that first record, or the second one, Roll Over Beethoven, and there's this name Chuck Berry. So who's Chuck Berry? You know, at a 9-year-old kid, I didn't know, and I found out who Chuck Berry was. That opened a whole other world. And then from Chuck Berry, Muddy Waters and B.B. King, and back to keep following that path. Robert Johnson, Blind Blake, this whole exploration. So around 1966, I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to jump into this. I had to figure out how this music was done, you know, and I got my father's old Sears Silvertone guitar, and which I had picked up a few times before, but this time I was determined. I was going to do this, and I spent that whole summer every day for hours, with a chord book, and then using my ear to pick up notes off of records, and which I found I was able to do, and the more I learned, the more I was inspired to learn more, and then at one point. A similar experience to Teresa. I played something for somebody and got a reaction, and then it was, and then the addiction started.
For that reaction.
Yeah.
I don't know so much about the reaction. It's not like a tangible reaction. For me, it was just a spiritual thing of us in the moment together, that we were there together. It's not like at church, nobody applauded anything. It wasn't kosher.
Yeah.
It was. Should I continue? Or?
Yeah.
And it wasn't for me like today I changed my life. I was already doing the stuff. We had a principal. We didn't have music in the schools when I was little, and they still don't in my home county, at least in Tennessee, which is appalling.
That's crazy.
But they do have a good drug problem going on, as do a lot of areas in
they usually go together.
States. But we didn't have music in the school, and I had a principal who pulled like 4 little girls in first grade, and I was one of them, and we just had a little girl group for the first 8 years of my school. So I had that. She would enter us in things around the county. And
the principal would?
The principal. She was a piano player. And,
What a great...
She was great. She was really great.
Yeah.
I had her in high school, too, which was also great. But But musically, she gave us that, and my parents gave me what music I got. So I was already, at church, and I was the little girl who sang around the churches, and then in college, I stage band. I just took advantage of the things that I could do within my little rural context, and it wasn't like an ambitious thing, like I'm going to grow up and be blah blah blah. It was just. I knew it was where I lived, and I was already doing the things. Like at school, there was no drama department. Believe me, we did good to get reading and writing. So I would create my own skits. Instead of writing an English paper, I would write a skit and involve my class and things like that. I would do that over and over, just an outlet for relating something I was feeling to an audience that hopefully would be receiving. So it wasn't. It just kind of kept doing. Making records or doing theater in a major professional way. Honestly, I felt like where I was from, you weren't really allowed to have that kind of dream. It just seemed ridiculously impossible. I just kept doing what I was doing. Kept doing what I was doing and just kept doing what I was doing. And then I found out you can study this at school. I always took the music for granted because it was just all around, and I did it ever since I can remember breathing. So I took that for granted, and I went to school for acting because it was a continuation of the same thing to me. Not musical theater per se for me, but the straight acting and then the singing and the music business side of things.
Well, and to go along with where you just ended and how you started with not necessarily being for lack of better words, performance, but entering into something. I think, and this word has a lot of loaded history for each individual person, but music or performance as a form of prayer in the sense that it's a vulnerability where you're stripping yourself naked. You're being vulnerable and
that's one area where I do feel fearless about doing that on stage. I do. I feel fearless about now writing. When it comes to writing, I have great qualms about putting that in. If I let myself go stream
the vulnerability,
I don't see how people can bear their souls in words because words are heavy and powerful, and it's not an ephemeral thing. It's there on paper.
We'll just make it about a character. Somebody else, right?
Yeah, when I did stream of consciousness writing, it freaked me so. It so freaked me out. But if I'm standing live on stage, I really don't mind just putting it on the floor. I don't mind that. It's what we're there for.
It's almost like it has that quality of once it happens, it passes. It's done.
It's just between you and me in that moment, and then it's over. And that may be another reason that recording and film, I never really I didn't think about that. It wasn't appealing either as an art form at that time in my life. Now I can see the other side of it, but
But we got a lot of comments during those years with Levon at the Rambles from people, and often people would say they felt like they had just been to church, and that goes along with what you're saying. That what we all did together, the band and the audience. It's like we had this experience. It wasn't us doing this to them; they were also doing it to us. And
that was my original moment of that aha thing of where this is where it is.
The sum becomes greater than its parts.
And it's a connection that you can't get any other way.
No. And
that's right.
That's why we do it.
Yeah.
In the attics of my life, full of cloudy dreams unreal, full of taste no tongue can know.
do you then, now that you know the potential, and well, let me ask you, with the Dylan stuff, did you, the Ramble's such a unique, beautiful, like we were just talking about before, I wish I could have gone. I still want to go. I've never been, but from what it looks like and what it sounds like, it's such a unique situation. I mean, it's literally the heart of something special, and you enter into the heart.
That was Levon's heart.
Levon's heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He foresaw these, I think, when he first built that place, and it's really incredible that with all of his ups and downs and almost. I said to somebody recently, that place burned down a couple of times, and he almost burned himself down. He practically did, and came back, and then saw this dream achieved, and then that Amy's trying to keep that going forward is.
Was that? Do you think that was the dream from the very beginning? That kind of creating that heart, that home.
I don't think it was
home?
Consciously
No.
that. I think it was something that he couldn't help because he was so.
He was that.
He was.
He
It
was
was.
that.
It,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
was. I mean, I always keep saying there was no distance between who Levon was and what he did.
That sounds.
know?
That's so great to hear.
Yeah.
As a fan, because that's what
Yeah.
you think.
Right.
But you never
right.
know.
Yeah. Sure.
No,
sure,
no, I
sure.
believe
I
he
mean,
didn't know
had.
how not to be that way.
Yeah, he had his
People-
he had his human flaws, as we all do, you know.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and but there was an honesty to his soul that was just, he tripped over it, you know. He couldn't help it. It was there, and there was nothing he could do
And
about it.
that's a big
you know.
magnet, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
People wanted to be around him and be with him, and
feel like they know him.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. I just bumped my phone. Sorry about that.
Yeah, he made everybody feel like you were his best friend. You know,
Yeah.
everybody felt close to him. I think.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that after?
How do you maintain?
I don't know. How did he maintain his Arkansas accent for 40 years?
And there
of-
wasn't anything put on about it either. It was the real. It sounded like he walked out of the cotton patch. You
Yeah.
know, the day.
Just
the last-
authenticity.
Yeah, authenticity.
heart.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan before. He was an artistic touchstone for me when I realized that the person playing. I didn't realize that the person playing Loretta Lynn's father in that movie, Coal Miner's Daughter, unbelievable performance, and coming from that culture, it really moved me. You know, it was the real. It would just shatter me every time I would see it. And Loretta says the same thing, that she couldn't stand to hear him say her name. It was just
Oh, man.
like her own father.
Yeah.
And I would say, why does this get me so much? And Larry go, because it's your father. It's like your father. When I put that actor with that voice
Yeah.
from the band, the night they drove Old Dixie down and all
Yeah.
that, he was my favorite performer from then on, and never dreaming that I would meet him, much less work with him.
How did that come about? If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, it's well, I met Levon way back in the '80s at the Lone Star Cafe in New York, but you know, back in the dark days.
Yeah.
You know, we were both. A lot of us were just, you know,
A little gravelly.
yeah, let's put it that way. Yeah, and we knew each other casually, and then while I was with Bob Dylan, Tony Garnier, Bob's bass player, invited me to come and play a gig with Levon with the Barn Burners, the blues band. That Tony and I went and sat in with them, and that's where we reconnected. So this is in late '90s, early 2000, around there. And soon after that, I was producing a record for the Dixie Hummingbirds, and Jerry Claus, who owned the record label, got a great idea to get Levon and Garth to play on the record. So we hooked that up, and then that was my
That's
first.
a great record, by the way.
Which one? No, it's the.
It's the 75th anniversary. It's called Diamond Jubilation, the
Okay.
Dixie Hummingbirds.
That's a great record.
That's the one I'm gonna have to get that now.
And
No, really.
Okay.
it's-
and that was our first experience in the studio together, Levon and I, and
Yeah.
it went great. It was fabulous. And then a couple of years later, after I left Bob's band, he called and said, "Come on up here to Woodstock and let's make some music." And he was just starting to get the Rambles going,
Yeah.
then, you know. And
So he dug it. The vibe was mutual.
Oh yeah, it was a real rapport, you
Yeah.
know. And so I went up and played with Levon, and soon after, and I also had been producing a record for Ola Bell, which was the band Amy, his daughter Amy was in at the time, and
I didn't know that.
and those guys had this little bar down in
Bush Bar.
yeah, the Bush Bar down in
Lower East
East
Side.
Village, and Teresa and I went down there and sang together with those guys, and Amy heard Teresa sing, and soon after invited her up. And,
So you guys knew each other then before, while this whole pot was being mixed.
We were married.
Married, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. We had been
So
married
yes.
for a long
Sorry,
time.
we left that little detail.
Yeah. I don't know if we knew each other, but we were married. Yeah.
Yeah, it took me about 10
We
years.
weren't really living together for most of our marriage at
I know
that
that
point,
story.
but
Yeah, and then quickly Teresa became part of this thing too. So from 2005 up until Levon died, we were all part of this thing, you know, and it couldn't have been a better experience for a musician or an artist or it was exactly what we all want to do the way we want to do it. It was
for the right reasons
Yeah.
and all of it, yeah.
And you knew
great
that.
music with great people in a great situation and everybody in it together. No egos going on. Nothing but having a great time making music.
You guys are making the fairy tale I've had in my head about how it's all bad.
It was real.
A reality.
It is.
It was real, and I
Guaranteed.
cherished I had the good sense to cherish every single moment because he'd had a pretty wild lifestyle there for a while, so who knew how long we were going to have him, and I cherished every moment mercifully. Yeah.
Now, with the Rambles, how easy was it to access that nerve of, like, the special potential of the Ramble? How easy was it to tap into that night after night?
It never failed. It
Yeah.
just showed up right away.
Yeah.
After the first downbeat.
He came
there it
out
is.
flashing that smile, and it was off to the races.
Yeah. And it's like Teresa said, every single moment of that, every moment was you were right where you wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at the shows would end and we had felt great, couldn't wait for the next one, you know, and looked forward to it, enjoyed every minute of that. You felt great at the end. You couldn't wait for the next one. It was literally that fulfilling.
And it was the fulfillment of the dream I had in my Big Bang moment of a little bitty kid at church when I realized this special thing in such a small setting, and here we were in such a small setting, working in the middle of that special thing. We say we can't describe what it really is.
Okay.
I realized on stage there one night of like, oh, this is the materialization of that dream.
What is that? Like, what is that thing? That's what this whole show is about.
Yeah,
What is that thing? Because I know it.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I
What
felt
do you
it in
call
church and I felt
Yeah,
it on stage.
yeah. But what do you call it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Name it.
Teresa
You
has,
hear it called everything.
Teresa has this term, music utopia.
Well, that was like
which
working
is-
with Levon
yeah,
up there,
which-
making the
which,
records. And,
I mean, that still doesn't describe.
it's part of the ether. It's part of the unknown. I heard scientists say, I'm totally cutting you off.
yeah.
I heard scientists saying,
This is all part of the ether right now, so you just talk.
one of these science shows that he goes to sleep to every night, and I heard them saying, and then read something maybe in the New York Times also yesterday. It was like, there's a lot going on that we just don't know, and these are scientists trying to describe some theory or something.
As they do.
There's just stuff going on there by some unknown thing that we just don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, these are like heavyweight scientists, not trying to be ooey hooey. They're just saying, look, we don't know.
Yeah. We know some what.
And I think that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And when you land in that place, when you're on stage and you land in that place and you've become aware that it's happening with you, because I can't pull that up. I can't dial that in every single night. I might really try really hard. Well, maybe I'm trying too hard.
I call it getting out of the way.
Exactly.
How do you get out
If
of
you
the
can
way?
get out of the way, if you
Yeah.
can get your ego out of the way, if you can stop thinking and let it go. It's so, I mean, you hear performers say all the time, it's the flow. You have to let it flow. You have to be the vessel to let it flow through you. And it sounds so stupid, but it's really kind of true. I hate to sound so, ooey hooey, but it's kind of true if you can get out of your own way and be tuned into the right station.
I love when Van Morrison talks about the slipstream or into the mystic. These are all obviously parts of the lyrics, but that's what it always reminds me of, is being as he says, transcended. Become transcended.
And when that's happening,
that's it.
when it's happening, you might be kind of. This really sounds weird, but actors, singer, musicians, when it's happening, and you're kind of sitting off on the side, and you might wake up and like, wow, that's just going without me. Isn't that the coolest thing I've ever experienced in my life? But to force it, it's impossible.
Have you ever tried to can it to like figure out the number, how to dial it up?
I just try to be open and ready.
It doesn't work.
Just try to be the best me physically and mentally, and just try to keep open, keep the crap out of my system and the bad vibes, or I don't,
You know what helps is getting on stage and knowing that these people are here with open hearts to have a good time and to hear what you want to communicate to them.
Yeah.
And you owe it to them to get out of your own way and let them have that.
But that's a trick, getting out of your own way. That's an accomplishment.
But
right there.
when I consciously am aware that people have come here because they're paying money to get this from you, then I can look at that as a responsibility and completely disown whatever personal issues I'm wrapped up with.
It's not about you.
You're right. That's right. It's
not about you.
It's about what I have to give to these people and what they come to get from me.
Yeah, they're giving back by receiving. It's the cyclical.
Yes.
I had a moment once, and this was like the most like I snapped right in. Like the fastest way I snapped into it is when I was singing. I think I was playing solo, and I noticed a couple people. You notice everything, people moving, or the worst is the phone. If you see a phone go, no. But I was so thrown out of it, and I was like, what must I do to like make these people listen, to make them happy? What must I do to like get into that place? And then my eyes turned right to a woman with her eyes closed, and I realized she's doing nothing but listening to everything that I'm doing right now, and not in like an egotistical way,
Right.
But in like,
Right. Yeah.
what's being laid out is being completely received by one person.
Yeah.
And if it's only one person, that's enough.
enough
That's
for me.
enough.
That's
Yeah.
enough for me.
Yeah. That's really true.
A blessing.
It's a
some-
gift to be able to do that.
And when you can't achieve that, let's say, magical exchange, when you're not feeling it, but I'm really tired. This is making me emotional. When you're not feeling the magic yourself, which is really a gift, isn't it? When we feel that special moment where that exchange is that ether exchange is happening. But you're doing your thing the best you can do that night. We're biology, and biology changes every night. The audience has a different personality every night. You're different every night, depending on what happened to you during the day. So the show's going to be different. You're going to be different. But if you're feeling like, oh, I just can't get to that special place where I'm totally free and open and I just can't get myself there. I'm too tired, or I'm this, or I'm that. You still deliver the best you can, and then after, and you just pray one person got something out of it. Mm-hmm. And then I think that then you find out one person will come up to you and say, I went through this horrible experience, and that song really helped me tonight. And that, that was worth the entire thing of just that one moment. So you can't always, just because we don't get the goody part, doesn't mean it's not actually happening. I mean, you still have to you have to make the donuts. You have to keep making the donuts every performance, whether you're feeling the special magic or you get that gift or not. And just trust that it's landing somewhere.
I'm just going to go for it here, and this is how I feel about it. You have to make the offering, despite what you're receiving or not. And
it's our job.
It's our job, and the Holy Spirit has a way of taking any offering and weaving it to where it needs to go. I mean, that's just what I've experienced in this.
Yeah.
Noisy
I'm nodding
life.
and realizing that nobody can see me nodding.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll keep closed captioning. So then I have like so many questions, and I'm trying to be respectful of your time. But that thing, I witnessed that with you guys. Like, I was one of those people. Not that I'm a geek or anything, but March 14th, 2013, I think it was. It's when you guys came through Milwaukee, and you're at the Potawatomi. That's where I met you, at Potawatomi Casino. And I just finished working with Bo, so I talked a little bit about Bo. But I think I just had my second daughter, and I was, she was on her way. My wife was pregnant with our second daughter. And you guys closed out the show with, oh man, it's some spiritual. And it's just you two, Amy and Levon.
Gloryland.
Gloryland, yeah.
Yeah.
If you have friends in Gloryland.
Yeah. I never heard that before, that song.
Yeah.
And I remember standing there, and now I'm going to try not to get emotional, but I remember standing there and just being like, completely like read, like you were reading me. And I felt so a part of this thing that we're talking about. Then I started going through the history of like Levon's history in my head. Like, my gosh, like this guy, his battles and physical battles and emotional battles and band battles and everything that I've just read has gotten him to this one point with like a couple hundred people. And I'm lucky enough to have his time for this brief moment, standing here, having him like deliver to me. And then I was just like scanning back and forth, you four people, and really in the moment. And then I looked, and he and Amy were holding pinkies, and I just blew open like, this is not my moment. This is his moment with Amy. And I'm like a guest,
But they're there for the same reason as you're talking about.
Yeah.
So. And he said, I think it was the last road show that we did with him. It was Tarrytown Music Hall. We're backstage in a little kind of barely there dressing room, and he's sitting with his head down, and everybody's getting ready to go out. And there's only like, I don't know, 3 or 4 maybe of us in that dressing room. And he looks up and goes, because his voice was really ragged. He had hardly been able to sing at all recently at that time. And he looked up suddenly, and I don't know if anybody else heard him, but he said, all I asked for are those 2 hours on stage.
Wow.
It was heavy. And that night, he picked up on When I Go Away, which Larry had been having to sing because Levon couldn't sing it. Larry did like a phrase.
I did the first verse, and I'm about to come in on the second verse.
And he picked it up.
And here comes this voice, like out of nowhere,
ringing,
which hadn't been around for a while. singing it clear as a bell, and with all the strength he had in
finished
him.
the song.
And he finished the song.
I thought we were all going to levitate.
Yeah. It was just, and it's on YouTube. That
Is that the Michigan?
No,
it was
that's in
at
Tarrytown
Music Hall.
Okay.
here in New York.
Oh, okay.
And it was the last road show we did with Levon. And then we came out and did Gloryland after that. And that was the last song we all sang with him right there. You know?
What a great song.
Oh, yeah.
What a great moment. I ask this with complete respect of what we're talking about and who he was for you, but I just always wondered, did he know in that last leg?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he.
You think he did?
Yeah. Not
specifically. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
With
he
a
knew,
comment like that,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah. I think he knew this was. The writing was on the wall.
I felt like the comment was just like in life, he just wanted to be able to do those 2 hours on stage.
Yeah. Everything else is
akin
just,
to what we're talking about here.
Everything else is just kindling to those 2 hours.
I've been thinking that in the last few days. It's like the rest of life is kind of, I want to be able to have regular life and do regular things. And when you're doing this, it's hard to do that. If you're really busting it, it's really hard to have a normal life, to spend time. Like when we were first married, we weren't living together. He was on the road, I was on the road, or, to spend time with my family or whatever. And I've just been thinking the last, you have to pay your bills, and somebody has to mow the yard if you have a yard, and that kind of stuff. I mean, but honestly, you realize that's kind of not our real life. I mean, you say real life versus our civilian life as a civilian life, but
enlisted.
Once we set our course, I was just thinking about this the last few days. I mean, when I was in college, I knew the only time that I really cared about was the time I was on stage. It just, because it was the safest place in the world. And that's just in the last few days I've been thinking that again. It's like that's where things feel real.
Yeah.
And the other stuff is just kind of stuff that we have to do. It's peripheral stuff that you have to do.
Yeah.
I want to spend time with my family. That's the only thing that I wish I could be with them more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a sacrifice. This is all totally ridiculously too heavy-handed the way I'm talking about this, but
it's fun and joyful. I'm just trying to. No,
I mean, I sound like I'm taking it way too seriously, but you got to go out there and have fun too. But
yeah, and you do, and it happens naturally. But I think you're exactly right. I mean, people don't realize that what a luxury. That's so exotic. That's so amazing. It's such a great lifestyle. It's like, well, I mean, it has its perks, but my goodness, like I haven't stayed in a comfortable bed. I haven't eaten a regular meal. I can't run.
There aren't
jogging.
enough hours to get a whole night's sleep.
No,
a full night's sleep.
No,
there's a
it's a
real
toll.
price to pay for the
As Levon said,
honor of doing what we do.
Yeah.
You know? And it is an honor. It's a
gift. As Levon said, I ain't in it for my health. No truer words were spoken.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, then another thing, just to kind of switch here, like with the ramble being kind of like that nucleus, that heartbeat, and in my head, I'm just thinking all the interstates that lead everywhere were kind of the arteries that led from that ramble. Like all that's the heartbeat, and when you guys went on the road, you just kind of shared it with everybody, on the artery interstate. But with Dylan, then, was there, because you guys, that band, the Love and Theft is one of my top. And that band was just, oh my goodness. I call it sonic bumper bowling. And it's a sound I've always tried to get. Like just, you have a path, the band had a path, but man, you guys moved in that path. And it was so enjoyable. Did you hit that special place then with that group of guys?
Yeah, but it was different. It was, I don't know. That band, when it was cooking on all cylinders, including Bob, was something. You know, I got to admit that was really
right.
You know, I remember some moments on stage when I was thinking, man, this feels incredible. But it was, I don't know. It wasn't the same thing that we got with Levon. You know, it just wasn't. This thing, it was.
Bob's gift was different from
Yeah,
Levon's. It's
yeah.
in a different kind of place.
So can you speak
I know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know him.
Yeah.
I mean, I barely met
But
him.
you were around.
But
you know,
but
you were-
just
yeah.
I paid attention to. Well,
The-
anyway, his gift is the writing. It's the writing, and my word, what a gift!
Yeah, and what he communicated through his songs, you know, through what he created. The performances weren't as constantly you know, they could be pretty erratic. The performances on all our part could be pretty erratic. And a lot of times the vibe on stage was not conducive to giving a great performance. you
But
know?
in fairness, he's busting it a lot of nights, months, weeks. He's
Oh, yeah.
out there constantly in a way that Levon kind of
Right.
didn't want to be
That's
on the
true,
road
too.
that
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
And that takes its own toll, you know?
Yeah,
It
sure.
does. I mean,
Sure.
I'm not in a good mood every day, and we just been out for a month.
Yeah.
You know, it's-
Well, and I think that's what I love so much about that era. I don't you know what, but that part, you know, that 97 on to not too long ago. But like, you're right. What they call it, the never-ending tour.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But so how do you fix that? And in my opinion, what I saw was you make it some kick-ass musicians, and these are guys that every night like can flick on a switch and really
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
take the crowd somewhere, man. Like,
Right.
you know, Cold was it Cold Iron Bound?
Cold Iron's Bound.
That
yeah.
Mass Anonymous version that you guys
Uh-huh.
do.
Yeah.
I've shown that to so many people who don't understand Dylan. I'm like, sit down, watch this. And they would say, oh, that's a unique camera angle. I'm like, just watch. Yes, it's a great camera angle.
Yeah.
You know, I had one guy who was a film guy. He's like, how they make it in focus in the front where Bob is all the way down. I'm like, don't,
Yeah.
just watch. Just watch.
They did the music great in that movie because everything you see is what you're hearing. You know, there were no overdubs, no syncing, no lip syncing. It was all, we had lavalier mics on, and they mic'd the instruments, and there was, I think, overheads, and everything was a live performance. You know, and they really, they did it great, I thought.
Yeah.
I'll say another thing about Bob Dylan,
Yeah.
which, again, I'm just a bystander. But you have to give it up that he must love what he does as he's out there all the time. I mean, he's the never-ending tour. He's out there all the time doing it. He's doing it, putting what he did across. You got to give it up that he's still doing it.
I'm so glad that
And has continued.
I've been receiving on the receiving side of it. I'm curious then with like Dylan, how much do you? Because for me, I'm aware of what you're doing in the band. I can hear it. So how much of your stamp, of your fingerprint, can you put down in a band like that?
Yeah.
I mean, are you kind of
you do end up doing it, you know. It's you know, that band while I was in it, and the members that were in that band is different from any other band at any other time, you know. And that's a result of the participants in it, and Bob would we would play songs over and over and over again until we got to something that was sort of a new interpretation of that same old song to him.
Do you mean play it over and over again every night?
In rehearsals.
Okay,
In
so
rehearsals or sound checks. And it would sort of develop this characteristic that wouldn't be performed that way if it hadn't been for the particular members of that band performing it that way, And he would keep kneading the dough, as it were, until it got to where it was something that was speaking to him.
Would it be consistent then from that point on? Or
for a while.
Really?
Yeah, for a while, and then it would morph into something else.
Do you think, like for me as a writer and a performer, that to me says I would think he's just trying to stay close to the source.
Yeah, exactly.
Not callous up.
Yes.
Giving honest.
Which is what we've been talking
That's what
about.
we're talking about.
Right, that's right.
Oh,
yes.
man.
That's very true. Very true.
You got to respect that.
It's a beautiful thing.
And the audience may not always be happy that it's not exactly the way they've heard it, and then
Oh, totally.
But
Well,
he's searching. I mean, it sounds like to me. Who am I to say? But
I had a friend of mine's a musician. He had a story about encountering Dylan that was just a little like, my friend had to go off. He was in a band and he had to go off to the side. I'm not going to name names, but he had to go off to the side and couldn't approach or come close or anything like that. And I remember like at that moment hearing that, I'm like, but that's how you stay normal. Because when you're somebody of a certain caliber, I would imagine you affect everybody wants to say how you've changed their life.
That's right. Yeah.
So how do you manage? How do you stay ready to cut yourself open and go on stage?
Yeah.
Not be an idol, but be an icon.
And not seem like a jerk because you're having to keep some space around you to protect that. I think people think, oh, they won't let anybody backstage or whatever. But how else could you keep some space to protect this thing we've been talking about?
Right. So that's one step in getting out of the way is get people out of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems rude, but are they there to touch celebrity, or are they there to commune with this thing we've been talking about?
Right. Commune is a great word.
Celebrity and fame is
It's a crazy thing. Okay, yeah.
Fickle, ugly. I'm sure it has its perks, but
It's got its monsters.
Yeah, it's a byproduct of what we really want to be doing,
Yeah.
And
Well, I'll close with just what came to mind. I just said icon, idol. The celebrity and fame has the potential of being an icon to bring people in a communal way together to look at the greater mystery, or in its darkest essence, an idol for it to be worshipped for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Look
man.
at that.
Well put.
How's that?
That's right.
Amen?
Amen.
Well, guys, thank you. This has really been
A pleasure,
been an
Mike.
honor.
Really, really interesting stuff you're getting to here. So
Yeah, I look forward to, the next conversation.
great.
All right, guys. Those are some great people. Am I right? I'm right. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Mark, the manager, for helping me get situated there. That was one of my favorite nights, and I truly hope that I get the honor of hanging out with them again and talking more in that vein, because that's a good place to be. So thank you guys for going there with me. Also, thank you to my patrons, Susie, Rachel, Deborah. I think that's the inflection. You guys are great. And anybody else interested in supporting the work that I'm doing, please do. It'd be great. You go to patreon.com, patreon.com/Mike Mangione. Also, sign up for Mystery Monday on my website, MikeMangione.com. For show and tell, I thought it'd be fitting to close with the song that we talk about in the conversation, the song Gloryland. This is a song that when I saw them in Milwaukee, I saw the four of them singing, and it hit me how lucky I was to be reaping the benefits of what they've sown in their life. I had this just profound sense of, those four people up there, it was Larry, Teresa, Levon, and his daughter Amy. Just the great sacrifice that they've gone through of love and loss and missed birthdays and friends, relationships broken up, and just everything that goes along with that lifestyle has led them to that point. And it's cost so much emotionally and spiritually. It has such high cost. And I was lucky enough to be there cashing in on that. I mean that in the best way. And by the way, the year was 2012. It wasn't 2013. I made a mistake. But I had that realization when I was watching that, and I felt like the luckiest man in the world that night. And a month later, after that show, Levon passed. And I realized, I wrote a blog about it. I called it The Wait. And I realized that, in things that we do that we love, we have a tendency, because we love them and because they become a habitual part of our life, or maybe even with music, for me, a profession, we have this tendency to view them as limitless, as never ending, as always on the horizon. Another show is always coming. And it was after that, Levon's passing, that I realized that shows are numbered. Those opportunities to engage in the things that we love are numbered. There is a certain amount of times you're going to see somebody. There's a certain amount of times you're going to go fishing. There's a certain amount of times I'm going to be on stage. And every time I step on stage and then do my thing and get off, that's one less in my life. And it helps me to value everything. It helps me to value every time I get to be with my friends, every time I get to see my kids, every time I get to perform. Each one of those has a value that I don't take for granted. So I thought, what better song to finish with for Show and Tell than the version that they're talking about, the Gloryland version of the last time they performed on stage together. So this is, I think it's in Tarrytown, New York, and it's Larry Campbell, Teresa Williams, Amy Helm, and her father, Levon Helm, performing for Levon's very last time on stage, Gloryland. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this resonates in you like it does for me with The Weight of Gold. This is Time in the Mystery, and I'll see you next time.
In glory land, who left because of pain. Thank God up there, they'll die no more. They'll suffer not again. So weep not, friends, I'm going home. Up there will not no more. No coffins will be made up there. No